If someone had told me a month ago that I'd be packing up my desk in silence while an intern slid into my chair, I would have laughed. I'm Lauren Kim, 29, and up until recently, I was the lead UX designer at Nest Solutions, a medium-sized SaaS company that always prided itself on thinking like a startup. I joined them 4 years ago when their product looked like something a college sophomore whipped up over a weekend. It was clunky, inconsistent, and users hated it. I redesigned almost every inch of it: the dashboard, onboarding, mobile app, error states, everything. I created the design system that made collaboration smoother between design, dev, and QA. I even wrote the documentation for it myself. And yet, none of that mattered. It was a Tuesday when my calendar pinged me for a meeting titled simply, "Quick Catch-Up, HR." I didn't think much of it. Maybe an update on benefits? Policy changes? I grabbed a coffee, smiled at Maya, our newest intern, and walked in. Sitting there were Sharon from HR and Callum, my manager. No coffee. No smiles. "Lauren, first off, thank you for everything you've contributed here at Nest. You've made a real impact. That said, the company is undergoing a strategic reorganization." I blinked. "Okay. We're streamlining operations and optimizing costs across departments. We've decided to sunset your role and transition key responsibilities to junior staff. Your last day will be today." I looked at Callum, waiting for the punchline. He looked at the table. "We've arranged for Maya to take over the design workflow. You'll have a few hours to pass on documentation if you're willing. Here's a packet with next steps." My brain short-circuited. Maya? The intern who had just asked me how to export assets properly the day before? They handed me a Nest tote bag and a printed sheet with post-employment support resources. That was it. No exit interview. No transfer knowledge session. No, "Can we retain you in any other capacity?" Just a quiet little ushering out. The weirdest part? People avoided my eyes as I walked back to my desk. My own teammates didn't say anything, like I had suddenly turned radioactive. I packed my things slowly. I stared at the monitor for a full minute before logging off. Maya didn't look up when she took my chair. The entire experience felt sterile. Like I'd died, and someone was already moving into my apartment before the body was cold. As I walked out the front door of the building, holding my tote bag of memories and disappointment, I remember one thought screaming through the numbness. I built so much. I gave so much. Was I really that easy to erase? The first week after I was let go, I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not my closest friends. Not even my roommate. I'd leave the apartment every morning and just wander. I sat in cafes with an untouched laptop, stared blankly at job boards, and scrolled through LinkedIn like it was a museum of people pretending to have their lives together. I kept thinking. Was I overconfident? Was I blind to my own decline? Had I become replaceable? That question consumed me. I replayed the moment in the HR office 100 times. The silence. The avoidance. The tote bag. The intern sliding into my seat like I had never existed. How could 4 years of effort, innovation, and loyalty amount to a transition memo and a 10-minute offboarding call? Every time I opened Figma to look at my portfolio, my chest tightened. I'd stare at the projects, clean grids, optimized flows, beautiful typography, and feel nothing but bitterness. Like they didn't belong to me anymore. Like they were stolen. By week 3, the shame started to morph into something else, anger. Not just at the company. At myself. I had let work become my identity. I had trained the very intern who replaced me, patiently, generously, believing that mentorship made me a team player. I had said yes to extra projects, skipped vacations, stayed late to fix problems that weren't even mine. And what did it get me? A tote bag. A ghosted goodbye. That's when I opened my email again. I typed in the name Michael Weller, the head of product at Novagrid. We had worked briefly together on a user behavior analysis dashboard last year. He'd been the one PM who actually got UX, who respected my design choices and asked insightful questions. After we delivered that project, he messaged me saying, "If you ever go freelance or decide to jump ship, give me a call. I'd love to build something with you from the ground up." At the time, I brushed it off. I was secure at Brightnest. Loyal. Settled. Now? I sat at my laptop for 10 minutes before typing a short email. Subject, long time, checking in. Hi Michael. Not sure if you remember me. We worked together last year on the engagement dashboard at Brightnest. Just wanted to reach out and say I've recently become available. If you or your team are looking for UX support, I'd love to chat. Lauren Kim. I hit send, closed the laptop, and prepared myself for silence. But 26 minutes later, I got a reply. Lauren. I've definitely been meaning to reach out. We just got funding for a new product arm and you're literally the first person who came to mind. Let's talk. Tomorrow? I stared at the screen, mouth open. After 3 weeks of feeling invisible, someone remembered me. Valued me. And not just anyone, someone I respected. For the first time since that humiliating walk out of Brightnest, something flickered back to life inside me. Hope. I didn't sleep much the night before the meeting with Michael. Not because I was nervous, but because for the first time in weeks, I felt awake. Alert. Like my brain was warming up after a long freeze. The Zoom call was scheduled for 10 a.m. I put on a crisp blazer, even though we both knew this wasn't an interview in the traditional sense. Just a conversation. When Michael logged on, he looked exactly the same, slightly messy hair, sleeves rolled up, talking while juggling his second coffee of the day. Lauren, seriously. I've been trying to figure out how to contact you. When I saw your email, I thought, finally. I couldn't help but smile. He sounded genuinely excited. We dove straight into it. Novagrid, the startup he helped co-found, had just closed a fresh round of funding. They were building a data analytics platform for mid-size e-commerce companies, and they'd hit a design wall. We've got brilliant engineers, he said, but they think like engineers. We need someone who can simplify complexity, someone who can turn ugly spreadsheets into something people actually want to use. I nodded slowly, ideas already forming in my head. We're looking for someone to lead the UX direction, not just execute. We need structure. A design system. A philosophy. Then came the kicker. You're not just a designer to us, Lauren. You're a partner. He paused. Then added. Before we move forward, what would it take for you to walk away from wherever you are now? I almost laughed. Where I am now was a very clean Google Calendar and a Netflix account that kept asking if I was still watching. But I didn't say that. I gave him my old salary, added what I thought was a bold increase, and braced myself. Michael nodded. That's fair. But here's what I'm thinking instead. He opened a shared doc. I clicked it. And I froze. $220,000 base. Equity. Health. Remote flexibility. Tech stipend. Quarterly retreats. It was over 3 times what I was making at Brightnest. More importantly, it was a seat at the table, not just a seat at the back of the room. I sat in silence for a second too long. Michael leaned in, smiling. Still with me? I nodded, blinking quickly. Yeah. I'm just not used to being treated like this. He shrugged. That's our problem with this industry. We wait until people leave, or worse, burn out, before realizing how badly we needed them. After the call, I closed my laptop and just sat there, letting it all sink in. They didn't ask for a design test. They didn't nitpick my portfolio. They didn't offer me a junior title with promises of growth. They knew my worth, before I even had to prove it. And just like that, after weeks of doubting myself, of questioning every pixel I'd ever moved, I had an offer I never saw coming. All because someone I worked with once remembered what I brought to the table. A week after I signed with NovaGrid, I received a message on LinkedIn from Callum, my former manager at Brightnest. "Hey Lauren, hope you're doing well. Quick question, do you still have access to the old Figma documentation for the onboarding flows? We seem to have lost track of version 3.1. Would appreciate your help." I stared at the message, blinking. No apology. No acknowledgement of how they let me go like discarded packaging. Just a favor. I left it unread. Then I got another message. This time from Lena, a junior product designer who used to work under me. She was sweet, fresh out of design school when I first took her under my wing. "Hey, sorry to bother you. Things at Brightnest are kinda falling apart. Maya accidentally pushed a broken component into production last week, and the client went ballistic. They've paused the contract." I felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Sadness for the team I once helped build. Frustration that no one listened when I said we needed proper version control. And, I won't lie, a tiny spark of vindication. Turns out, when they replaced me, they didn't just lose a UX designer. They lost the glue. The documentation I created? Gone. The logic behind component behaviors? Lost in a sea of intern guesses. The design system? Being butchered in real time by people who didn't understand why it was built the way it was. Lena's final message broke my heart a little. They're asking me to rebuild things I've never even touched before. I'm trying, but it's chaos. I just wanted to say, I miss having you here. I typed back carefully. Thanks for reaching out, Lena. I miss working with people who care. Keep your head up and document everything. You're stronger than you think. I didn't tell her where I was working now. I didn't mention the new title, or the salary, or the startup that actually treated me like I mattered. But word gets around. A few days later, I noticed Sharon from HR viewed my profile. I laughed. "Now you remember me?" Meanwhile, at NovaGrid, I was already sketching the foundation of an entirely new user flow. We were working fast, but smart. Engineers asked for my input early. PMs deferred to my choices. The CEO dropped in once to say, "I don't know what magic you're doing, but the beta users love it." And when we had our first product demo, and the clients actually cheered over a smooth reporting feature, Michael turned to me and said, "This is what happens when you hire the right person." That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on my tiny apartment balcony, and stared at the city lights. They replaced me with an intern. But they never replaced my impact. They never could. And I moved on to somewhere that saw me not as a line on a spreadsheet, but as a leader. It's been 6 months since I walked out of Brightnest carrying a tote bag filled with pens, notebooks, and the sting of being silently discarded. 6 months since I watched an intern take my seat without flinching, while the people I trained couldn't even meet my eyes. But now? I sit at a custom-built home workspace, complete with an ultra-wide monitor, a standing desk, and a plant that somehow refuses to die. Proof that maybe I can take care of things beyond wireframes and workflows. I wake up without dread. I start my mornings with coffee and sunlight, not Slack pings and damage control. And I build products with people who respect what I bring to the table. I'm not just the UX girl anymore. I'm the head of user experience at NovaGrid. I define the tone of the platform. The experience. The philosophy behind every button and screen. And most importantly, I finally see my own value, without needing a performance review to confirm it. Sometimes, when I think about the way Brightnest let me go, I still feel a flicker of hurt. I won't pretend it's completely gone. Some wounds don't heal cleanly. But they become reminders, markers of where you've been, not where you're going. I used to think that loyalty meant staying where you started. Now I understand. Loyalty should begin with yourself. When I talk to junior designers now, I tell them, document everything. Ask questions. Share knowledge, but protect your boundaries. Don't assume the company will remember your name when it's time to cut costs. They probably won't. And if they do what they did to me? Don't break. Build. Somewhere better. Somewhere smarter. Somewhere that sees you. The irony is, Brightnest reached out again last week. A new product lead, someone I didn't even know, emailed me saying, "Hi Lauren, we're hoping to bring in outside consultants to audit our UX flow and rebuild some of the architecture. We've heard great things about your work and would love to see if you're available." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply. Not because I'm petty. Not because I hold a grudge. But because I don't owe them anything. They let go of someone they thought was replaceable. And I became unforgettable.